Clearer picture of the impact that the new property tax cap will have on communities across New York. The State Association of Counties says that the cap will limit the increase in revenue for county governments to roughly $90 million next year. Trouble is, the bill for mandatory Medicaid payments and social service programs is expected to grow by $279 million, and that leaves local leaders with a very difficult task of finding creative ways to cut spending and provide services in order to make ends meet. Joining me now to talk more about this is the Executive Director of the State Association of Counties, Stephen Acquario. It's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.
So you guys provided a briefing to your members, and this is very technical. So generally speaking, what did you tell them?
Well, it's a time in government now which is on the television. We turn the TVs on, we see Washington. We turn the television on, we see Governor Cuomo going across the state.
Right.
And we're going to start turning the TV on and seeing an impact at the local government level now of what is going on as we prepare our budgets for next year.
Okay, that doesn't sound good.
Well, we're going to be looking at something which is very technical, and it's called a property tax cap. This is a good thing for our residents here. We're going to have finally some attention focused on stabilizing, reducing property taxes in New York, and that's long overdue.
Sure.
But what does that mean? We did a briefing this week, and we heard from many counties all across the state, from Rockland to Monroe in the southern tier, western New York, central New York, and there is indeed a great concern about local services.
Okay, you and I have had this conversation sort of ad nauseum, so I just want to touch it, which is to say that because there was not significant mandate relief enacted during the legislative session, it's not offsetting the cap. In other words, a lot of local government leaders sat around this table, you sat at the table, and said, we need mandate relief. We need the state to stop shoving down cost that we must pay and have no choice but to pay in order for us to be able to afford keeping our spending low. And the governor said, you really need to have some discipline here, people, and too bad for you.
The governor has told us to tighten our belts.
Right.
And we believe our belts are quite tight right now, but he's told us to tighten them even further. So that's what we're going to do. I think the vast majority of the counties across New York State are not going to override a property tax cap.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
They're going to live within the terms of the state law.
Yeah, but you know what? People aren't going to like that when they figure out what it means. Because when you look at polls, it says, do you want a property tax cap? Yes, overwhelmingly, 80% plus. People think it's great. It sounds fantastic. It is fantastic. We are a very highly taxed, one of the most highly taxed states in the nation. However, when you say to them, would you rather see your property taxes or your taxes generally go up, or would you rather see services be cut, they usually choose the former.
And thus the theory of the unintended consequence. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing here. Do you want your road patrol reduced? Do you want your 911 center to stay open? Do you want to keep your nursing home to care for your older adult parent? Do you want your roads and bridge fixed? These are the things, these are the local services that are going to be chopped, eliminated, or reduced because we have to stay within the terms of a tax cap.
Now, interestingly, you have this sort of PowerPoint presentation that you brought with you that you gave to your members, and you also had some folks in from the tax department, from the administration, and they were briefed on exactly how difficult this is, and there are some surprises. Fire districts? I didn't know fire districts were actually beholden to this.
So I think that the tax cap is a good thing in many ways, but one of the good things it is it forces the people to understand their government. Just like Washington, D.C. now, why should we care about the federal government? All of us should care about the federal government, and all of us, so too, should care about the state and local governments. Which services are they providing? Which services do they want to keep? And all of these things now, all of a sudden, are very relevant, and understanding it is a very complicated and technical thing, and that's what we're going through right now.
Well, I think some people don't actually realize this. Fire districts actually are voting districts. You're supposed to be showing up to vote on your fire district budget in many cases, right? And a lot of people do not, and they actually have taxing capability, fire districts.
And that's what we learned this week, that there are special purpose districts. What are they? Water, library, sewer, anywhere where there's a taxing authority. These jurisdictions, these special purpose districts, are also tied to this property tax cap,
right,
meaning they cannot raise their property tax levy over 2% or the consumer price index without a vote of an override. And really, from our perspective, the goal here is not to override. Why? Our taxes are too high in New York State. We should be cutting them. And where Albany failed and left the local governments holding the bag is on mandate relief.
Right.
So that's the next step here. It has to happen in order to preserve local services and continue to provide the things the community really wants to have. We need relief from Albany.
So interestingly, actually, and now you guys are not NICOM, which would be the Conference of Mayors, you are the Conference of Counties. However, Association of Counties. This is a fascinating story. The Camillus mayor tells village residents a disillusioned vote will be on Election Day ballot. There is a village in central New York that says, you know what, we can't afford to exist anymore, so we're just going to dissolve, and we're going to vote on dissolving. And in part are blaming the property tax cap, saying if in fact we were going to continue to exist, we would have to vote to probably blow the cap because we can't afford, with our pension costs, we can't afford to keep existing unless we raise taxes significantly. Do you believe we will be seeing more of this?
I do. I think we're going to see a lot of unintended consequences here. I think there's going to be a lot of shared sacrifice. A lot of painful decisions are going to come about over these next 3 or 4 months, and you'll begin to see these public hearings take place and really engaging the citizens to understand the impact of this tax cap.
Now, the governor would probably say, well, this is actually not such a bad thing. In fact, the governor, when he was Attorney General, pushed through a law that is enabling these people in Camillus to dissolve, that you can petition your government and say, we would like to get rid of ourselves because we've got a town and we'd like to become part of the town, or those districts of which you speak, not fire districts necessarily, but the duck waste cleanup district or whatever they happen to be,
right,
perhaps should stop existing because we have too many layers of government. The thing about that is, though, do you believe that actually the governor pushed the cap because he knew it would cause this to happen?
I don't. I think this is something that was happening on its own, that the tax cap perhaps accelerated what was going on locally with this village. But again, these tax caps, these local elected officials, they don't want to be in that position to have to override or vote to raise taxes over what the state has says they should be allowed to approve. So it really is going to position these local officials in an uncomfortable way with the public. The public is saying we've had enough with taxation at the federal level, at the state level, now at the local level. So a lot of people want to control taxes, not raise them, and these are the types of things that are going to be happening.
You know, what's interesting also is that the governor seems to be of the mindset that borders, all of these borders that we've created, artificial, he believes in some cases. We have village borders, we have district borders, we have county borders, we have city borders. His approach has been, let's get beyond our borders or eliminate them, and we're seeing that this week when he goes around and talks about the economic development councils. That's a regional approach, encouraging regions to compete against one another. You guys exist within county lines. What is your feeling about this idea of going through the lines that we've traditionally recognized?
It's going to be painful. It's going to be a time of transition here, a transformation. I think it's critical, though. I think that the state of upstate is in serious need of concern and attention, that we need to think more regionally, that the counties, the cities, the villages, the towns, the school districts, the universities that sit in these various regions need to do a better job of moving and acting in a regional capacity. I think the days where we're fighting for jobs in a particular city or county have got to end, and that we need to think more regional. People may live in a different county but work in another county. And so I think that in order to be competitive as a state, these are the types of things that we have to do, and perhaps even involve other states to think regionally as part of our national landscape.
Do you believe that the default, assuming that it occurs, which of course we hope it does not, will impact counties? Are you starting to talk about that with your members?
The membership is starting to think about the impact of it. We are closely connected to the federal government with human services programs, temporary assistance to needy families, Medicaid. There are large, very large federal payments that come from the United States government or the federal government to the state of New York and ultimately pass through to the counties. So there is a connection. There is a degree of concern about how long this is going to go. Should the United States default?
Yeah.
There is a concern. Let's hope they can meet this 11th hour deal and get something done.
Well, the problem is that in order for counties to meet their obligations, if they can't get the money from the government, they would have to borrow, assumedly, and then because they're borrowing, the default would cause rates to go up. It's a cyclical problem, right, going down a drain. All right, so let's not think about it. We will assume that the Tuesday deadline will, in fact, get met in D.C. Hopefully, fingers crossed, as the governor would say. Thank you very much, Stephen Acquario, for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.